Well, good evening, Sam. I'm glad you've decided to join us for the interview. It really is a joy to speak with you about matters concerning New Project 2, and I expect later on Section 230. So, first of all, would you like to just tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and your legal training there?
Sure. So I'm a company director. I'm dual qualified in IT and law. So I um, own a small software development company. And I've also done a master's degree in law with what we call the legal practice course here in the UK, which is the attorneys or solicitors exams. Now, I haven't taken that further. I haven't become an attorney, but I have 10 years experience helping people in court as something called a Mackenzie friend. And as a Mackenzie friend, you can give legal advice and you can help people with their papers. And sometimes I've been allowed to speak on their behalf and cross-examine witnesses, which is discretionary. On the judge's behalf. But as I said, I've passed my law exams. I've got a master's degree in law and 10 years experience of litigation basically here.
So you're kind of like, in Canada, we'd call it like a paralegal, like you're able to do stuff like they're able to do, kind of?
Not quite like that, but I mean, you can look it up if you want. But yeah. Basically, I help a lot of people in court for charity.
Excellent.
It sounds like great work you're doing there, absolutely sterling work. And so, Sam, on the matter at hand, New Project 2, what did you think when you cast your own eyes and your own experience that you've just outlined there onto New Project 2, onto that website? What were your initial impressions of New Project 2, Sam?
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Everything was going so well. No. Wait. What? Darn.
You're going to be in the editing room.
Yeah. You all went quiet. We lost sound again. It's like, it seems so. Yeah, I'll be in the editing room. Don't worry. It's like, we can edit this.
Hold on, Jacob. Yeah, I'll have to edit that out.
And join again. Oh, this was so, we were doing so good.
It's all right.
Yeah, we'll get this working.
I'm glad we didn't go live.
No, you see, I'm glad as well, yeah. But we're still recording. We're still going good. He said he's going to come back in. By the way, PPP, if you somehow increase your volume, I don't know how you would. You're just putting the phone to your face, right?
Yeah, I am I sounding a little bit quiet?
Increase it a bit, because you're the quietest of the bunch.
Can you hear me now?
We hear you now, Sam. Perfect.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know how much of my question you caught there, Sam.
So I told you a little bit about myself, and then it all went quiet, and I don't even know if you heard me.
Oh, we heard you.
Right. No, yeah, we absolutely heard you. Yeah. And my follow-up question to that was, by all means, that's absolutely sterling work, and that's fantastic. But like, onto the matter at hand, New Project 2. What did you think when you cast your eyes and your own considerable experience in this field onto New Project 2, onto that website? What were your initial impressions?
So the first thing that I noticed, it's actually what Leo used in his video, the terms. Now, one of the ways I earn money here is that I do compliance work with financial institutions. And so not so long ago, I was overdoing some software for a company that helps big banks comply. And they have like books of compliance rules and terms and, vetting processes for clients. And Dick hadn't sorted any of that up. He basically seems to have used a single merchant account and set up this this payment processor. And as Leo pointed out, there's just like this paragraph of terms saying terms don't mean anything. So straight away you've got kind of enormous hole where all his compliance should be before we even get into the substance of what's on some of the websites he's been supporting.
So just to clarify, in your own opinion there, Sam, do you think that Dick Masterson saying in his terms of service that they don't mean anything, do you think that's legal?
Oh, no. It's like we had it. It's like we heard everything before. We heard everything great.
Am I sounding all right now?
But now it's out. I think great, but now it's out. Seem to. Do you guys, just by question, do you three have Skype accounts? Do you three?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I should.
I can set one up in seconds, I think.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. because I'm on my Windows partition. I do not, but I can install it very quickly. Let's see here. If they'll be like, we might need to use Skype. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Let me see here. Oh, no. Let me just reinstall it on my phone.
Yeah, I'm just going very quickly. Skype communication tool. It's like here.
I haven't used this in years.
Yep. I'm trying same, but we're gonna make it work.
I hope my login is okay. Yeah. What is my account?
We are going to get this interview, lads. Do not worry.
Well, it's a good thing he's not pressed for time.
Yeah, that too.
Sorry about that. This connection keeps breaking.
Okay. We got the last question quite well when you were saying about the what you thought of the terms of service and privacy policy, and Godwinson just basically asked you, do you think that's legal?
Certainly wouldn't be here in the UK because we have this thing called the Financial Conduct Authority, which regulates everyone and requires them all to have, policies and things.
Well, I was going to say that the website name and Dick Masterson, he's a funny guy. Some people seem to think he's a comedian. I think that's his official profession, but he thinks it's kind of like a joke, right? Even the website name, New Project 2, terms of service, they don't mean anything. Would jokes like that really hold up in a court of law?
No.
Okay.
I don't know what to say. We have here, really strict regulation. If you want to run like a bank or something, you have to be a fit and proper person recognized by the Financial Conduct Authority. And just to be clear, it's nothing to do with left or right. I am, a conservative. I support Boris Johnson. I'm sympathetic to Trump. It's nothing to do with, bias or censorship. It's just there's a whole bunch of red tape if you want to run a financial institution, and much of it is to do with stopping crimes and stuff. Nothing to do with left or right. It's Twitter. I think there's legitimate criticism there about bias, but all this is just like straightforward lack of compliance.
Yeah.
So, do you, in your own opinion, Sam, do you believe that Dick Masterson is fully equipped to deal with this financial institution? Do you believe he's fully equipped to be the proprietor of such an institution like New Project 2?
I don't think he's got the skills because, you must realize that with all the laws we have on like money laundering stuff these days, if you try to set up a payment processor, you're going to want some significant skills in your business that he doesn't seem to have.
Right. Now, I've read your article, Sam, that you published on the 29th of May, I think, a few days ago now. And you say that within that text, New Project 2 LLC was, I quote here, hilariously easy to dismantle. Would you like to just share with us the process of how New Project 2 was dismantled?
Yeah, so New Project 2 depends on, obviously, credit card processors, and the credit card processors I've dealt with before are fairly strict. They won't get involved in politics issues. They won't ban a firm just because it's hurt someone's feeling or because it's left or it's right or whatever. Do you know what I mean? You have to show them illegality. And I've had an executive there say, look, we're not going to get involved unless it's illegal. But if you can show them illegality, if you can show them a money laundering risk, then they are going to say, no, we're going to close it down.
So did you show a money laundering risk on New Project 2?
It's difficult now to where even to begin. Obviously, starting with the terms of New Project 2, there's no obvious onboarding process. They're not vetting these people as far as I can tell. But then, of course, when you look at Josh and of course, Mad at the Internet, which was powered by New Project 2, that was obviously being used to fund illegality. Josh has made himself the, if you like, one of the international faces of white supremacist terrorism. When Brenton Tarrant shot up a mosque, police said to him, cooperate with us, let us know who's distributing the video. And Josh's response was, no, he's the one distributing the video, and, he doesn't care about the laws. And he used some very, very harsh terms, as I'm sure you remember. He literally told some police officer in New Zealand, investigating terrorism, I don't care about your faggot laws. That's what Josh said to him. And of course,
Sam, was your interest piqued in New Project 2 when you saw that Joshua Moon, owner and proprietor of like Kiwi Farms and 9chan, was drawing an almost, I think it's nearly $2,000 a month, a paycheck from that website? Was your interest piqued there?
Yeah, that was why I cared. I mean, don't get me wrong, all the other stuff's bad and shady, yeah, but it would have been someone else's problem if Josh wasn't on there.
Right. So just tell us about your prior history with Joshua Moon. It's fractious to say the least, from what I can gather.
Yeah, and it's fairly straightforward. I run a blog, a lot like Leo. What I do is I expose wrongdoing. A lot of it's the same wrongdoing Leo exposes. And I was looking at a website called Rational Wiki. And at the time, there was a guy on Rational Wiki who was a bit of a pedo apologist. And he was, coming out with this usual rubbish about paedophiles being an oppressed minority. I'm sure you've seen it all. Mm-hmm. So I was doing a bit of a hit piece on that, and I encountered this guy called Dynastia, and he was from some place I'd never heard of called the Kiwi Farms. And we initially seemed to get on, but then I wanted to go after the paedophile, and Dynastia just wanted to harass random people about kinks and stuff he'd found out about them that weren't illegal. Like, one of them was into being cuckolded, and that's not my cup of tea. But equally, it's not illegal. It's grown adults. I don't care. I wanted to have a go at the person who was, glorifying paedophilia. And then, so we didn't really get on after that. And Dynastia created a thread on me on Kiwi Farms, which is much like all threads, full of stalking and lies. And I think at one point they were even sharing their drafts on bomb threats and kind of mass murder threats. They sent in my name. And obviously that's why we fell out. And I discovered Joshua in the Kiwi Farms, and our disagreement flowed from there.
So within your article, you say that his speech is not legal and his website's not legal. Would you like to just clarify with relation to Section 230, how it's not legal and how his speech isn't legal?
So let's start off. Simple thing about Section 230 has no effect on criminal law. So, if it's a civil matter like libel, Section 230 might give you a defence. If it's something illegal like, say, child pornography, there is no defence. Okay, so if it's a crime, if it's, like so selling drugs or something.
It just opens up Josh to legal liability now, civil liability now, where he can be sued and lose income or have wages garnished in an attempt to collect damages. Whereas now he'd still be criminally responsible if there's anything on the site that's criminal. In your estimation, Sam, is there anything on the site now that you would consider to be criminal?
I don't know if you're aware of the history, but I've had Josh banned from hosts several times over the years. And one thing they've said that was news to me, for example, about 4 or 5 years ago, Gandhi.net, a French host, banned Kiwi Farms, and they specifically said they found child pornography. So I don't know if that's a thread or he's got a hidden forum, but they very specifically said they found significant amounts of child pornography that was illegal under French law, and they canned it and they wouldn't give him his database, and he actually lost data. And there's been a couple of others who've banned him on the same basis.
Wow. So he's been hosting child
pornography. I've got that in writing. So, I mean, I can send you a link. Give me 2 secs. I'll put it into the chat. Or I can email it around. So, but he has for years denied child pornography, but hosts keep banning him. And eventually he actually had to put in place various means to hide the host, so we couldn't find out where the host was easily. So he doesn't just use Cloudflare, but he actually kind of used his disposable hosts as a front end, and they redirect traffic. So it kind of goes through Cloudflare, it goes to a disposable host, and then it goes to the web front end, and the database is somewhere else.
So what you're saying is that he's tolerated child pornography on his sites, and when it's come time to remove it, he has gone to further extents to allow child pornography to continue to be posted rather than reporting it to authorities, is what you're saying, yeah?
Well, that is why they banned him. I mean, it wasn't, you don't have to take my word for it. It was a French firm, and I've just sent you a link with a screenshot of what they said to Josh. So if you scroll down my article, there's an enormous screenshot from Gandhi.net, and you can see what they and Josh discussed. And if you click on it, it will come up full size.
So, Sam, in the penultimate paragraph of your article, published on the 29th of May, you talk about the terminated merchant file, a TMF, right? Would you just like to elaborate upon how that relates to Josh and also Dick Masterson, who are financially associated with Josh?
Yeah, so What it is Visa and MasterCard have a kind of blacklist of people who've been kicked off the network for breaching their rules. And it's quite hard. You have to basically do illegal stuff, certain things to do with consumer rights, but they keep a list. And, if you've been kicked off for child porn or money laundering or terrorism, whatever, you go on the list. And, then you can't come back for at least 5 years. So what happened was Josh actually had another site a few years back. And he was running that in his own name. This was before New Project 2, but it was a very similar setup, yeah? You could donate and give money to the Kiwi farms. And that was under his own name, and MasterCard and, the others kicked him off because they found, illegal stuff. And there was actually, I think there was some suggestion of credit card fraud at the time. I think it was a website called lolcow.us. And there was some fraudulent transactions, and then we found out about this when Josh was trying to cover up because he was posting on Kiwi Farms saying someone put massive fraudulent transactions through, and it wasn't me. I'm being fitted up, guys. Like anyone else would dump thousands of dollars of fraudulent transactions through his website. And I found my note of that. That was in 2017, and so that site was banned, and he shut it down. So he's on the terminated merchant file. Then obviously he's gone over to New Project 2. I don't know how much, Dick Masterson understood this. And again, this comes back to him not having policies or vetting or, knowing it, because most payment providers would check you, would vet you against the terminated merchants file if you applied to go on them. But either Dick Masterson didn't because he didn't know, or he decided to ignore it. But anyway, Josh has gone on to that service. And now, of course, Dick Masterson's name will have this terminated merchants file note against it because obviously the service has been terminated because of all the illegal content on Josh's site.
So your last paragraph of that article, you offer a warning to Dick Masterson saying that he's earning 20 grand a month on Patreon, and he should start reflecting carefully and urgently on this. So I think you even recommend fear, right? But what you're saying about Dick Masterson is that he could likely lose his Patreon earnings by being a terminated merchant.
Well, look, if you are linked in the financial system to illegality, you will find services disappear. Your bank account will close and you can't get another one and all sorts of stuff. And, and it can come as a shock to people. I've read a lot of horror stories about, students who've maybe accepted a questionable payment and had their bank account shut down without warning, And that's because there's all these money laundering regulations. And again, it's nothing to do with politics or left or right. The banks, if anything, have been a bit trigger happy over the years. And they're talking about reforming it now. But if Dick is linked to all the illegality that Josh is linked to, he could certainly be terminated by Patreon. He could lose his credit cards and his checking account, for that matter.
Now, Masterson has been terminated prior by Chase Bank, I believe, and other sort of payment providers. With your interaction recently, who was the bank? Who was the person you contacted?
I contacted MasterCard because they actually set the rules that the banks that process credit transactions have to follow. They have rules, and Visa has rules, and you have to follow the rules if you want to be a bank that processes transactions. And then, down a step from them is like a company like Patreon or New Project 2.
So you didn't contact any bank directly?
No, what happened was MasterCard contacted the bank and asked the bank to investigate, and then they came back, and as you can see, they said the acquirer, that's the bank, has terminated them.
So you're unaware of which bank in particular it was that Dick was using?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter because you don't want to be messing about with individual banks. You want him on the central file that's held by the card networks, because then it doesn't matter what bank he goes to. The bank will go up. He'll say, "Can I sign up, Mr. Bank?" They'll go, "Okay, let's just do our background check." They'll check the terminated merchants file, and there he'll be. So messing about with individual banks is.
So, are there any hopes, Sam, about maybe a new Project 2 coming to surface? Is there any hope of him redeeming or finding some shred of how to rebuild this again?
Ban Josh, because the thing is, the Ralph Ritor, all those other guys, whatever you think of them, their content isn't illegal, yeah? Ralph isn't distributing terrorist manuals or whatever. Josh is, doing a hell of a lot of illegal things. And, we might want to come back to the child porn in a minute because there's some good evidence there about his recent activities. And, he's doing some pretty extreme things on 9chan. And even the terms appear to allow illegal activity there. But all Dick has to do is get rid of Josh. Now, then he also has to persuade the banks that he is, a fit and proper person. I suspect they'll have questions about, his procedures. But I'm not going to bother with Dick Masterson if he's not hosting Josh.
But how long will Dick Masterson be on that terminated merchant file now?
I'm not actually sure on the policy. I would suspect at least 5 years. But, I mean, he might be able to go to them and kind of grovel and say, yeah, we have one bad actor, we've banned them. It depends on how he approaches it. If he insists on trying to prop up Josh, he's going to find things very difficult. If he shows some humble pie and sorts out his policies and doesn't have Josh, then he may well be able to get back on. And that's kind of between him and them. It's for him to explain things.
Pause. Wait. Pause. Everyone pause. I'm going to edit this out. I want to ask Sam, do you have headphones by chance?
I do.
Yes.
I'm not so sure whether the
okay, then it's okay.
Speaker on it's so good. Why?
Just because I noticed whenever PPP or Godwinson talk, there's like a brief echo for a moment and then it goes away. But honestly, not a big deal.
Look, let's try. I've got some headphones. I just can't promise that the mic will work well. Give me 2 secs. Worst case scenario.
Okay.
We just
PPP,
take it out.
do you remember your question? PPP, do you remember your question?
Yeah, I was just going to ask him if he was sure that Dick had been added to that list.
2 secs, because I'm fiddling around with headphones. You'll have to repeat that.
No worries. Yeah, no worries.
Yep. But audio quality is good so far. Just the.
Can you still hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you for sure.
Good. I've got headphones on, so hopefully there won't be any echo now.
Now it's good. Yep, now it's perfect. So PPP, you can continue. Repeat your question.
So Sam, I was just curious. So at this point, you're certain that Dax Herrera would have been added to that list of banned merchants because of his association with Josh and MasterCard?
Well, just because he's terminated. It's called the terminated merchants file, because if you get terminated for breaking the rules, they put you on it with whatever rule you broke and the evidence.
Okay. So it's automatically, he'd be added to that list, and then he'd be on there for 5 years. So
Sam, can I just ask your opinion on what you think about the site still being up and still seeming to accept people donating within the site?
So there's another worry there, and again, it's a compliance thing. A lot of the rules of the card networks, as I recall, say you're not supposed to store actual card numbers. So I'm not sure how that's working, but I don't want to say too much because I don't know about the inner workings of the sites. But I think what you're supposed to do when you're processing card numbers is kind of, as a website, not keep them, but just pass them through to the payment provider. So hopefully nothing dodgy is going on there, but we don't know what's going on. When you put your card number into New Project 2, I have absolutely no idea what happens to it.
Do you think it's still correct business practice to still operate New Project 2 now that Dick Masterson has been terminated as a merchant?
I think it's really questionable. And I think, it'd be interesting to see what happens. I suspect it's not the worst thing that they've done, though, by a long way.
What do you think the chances would be of New Project 2 being reinstated with the financial service without removing Josh as a creator that benefits from it? Do you think it's a 0% chance he'd be able to find an institution that would process the transactions?
So if he did find a bank, as soon as it opened up again, we'd have it banned again, because you can't have Josh's sites, as they are currently, on financial networks because they're illegal. So if he found some bank that for some reason didn't check or was willing to accept the risk, then they just ban him again. Yeah. And I'd be very surprised if he got that far at this stage. But
the rumor has been, Sam, that he's using some shady bank in Chinatown that's open to all and is willing to process any transactions. Even a very shady bank, you feel, would be compliant with these regulations?
Well, I imagine most banks would turn him down, but let's say it was a shady bank, and indeed it did take a while to get a response, because normally they're quite quick when they're banning Josh, but this one was slow, so maybe they were a shady bank. But there's shady, and there's stuff you just can't deal with, and I don't think that he's going to be able to keep an account even with a super shady bank for very long.
Wow.
I mean, if you look at it, and again, I sent you an example. He's been getting banned for child porn the last 5 years, yeah? Don't have to take my word for it. I've already just sent you what the French guy said. Now,
yes.
Do you have a moment to look at the terms of service of 9chan?
Sure, we have all the time in the world.
So if you take a little trip over to 9chan and have a look down the terms, and there's a couple of things that leak out. Give me a second, because I don't want to use 9chan with a regular browser. I want to use it with Tor, so give me a second to just get Tor.
Well, it might be worth you just reading out loud those terms of service for the people who are listening to this as an audio interview.
Give me a sec, and I will read out the relevant bits and explain what the problem is. I'll try and keep it brief.
Awesome, Sam.
Sorry, I don't like to touch Josh's stuff, because another thing that he got in trouble for before, he had malware on there, and if you visited his sites, it would mine crypto without telling you.
Yeah, I have a buddy who won't go on it with any sort of VPN or anything like that, because it tells him he's going to get like a Trojan or viruses whenever he heads to Kiwi Farms. So I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, they were mining Monero, because Monero you can mine with JavaScript, so they had it in the browser, and then he got flagged as malware. So then he kind of he was using CoinHive, so then he tried to kind of tell people, but it was too late, so he had to take it out again. He was quite obsessed. I went through the source code of it, and he was like, he had little comments like maniacal, ha ha, fuck you, Sam Smith. That's how obsessed he is with me.
But 9chan's relatively new, isn't it, Sam?
Sorry, I was talking about Kiwi Farms.
But with 9chan itself, it's a relatively new enterprise, but it seems to be run the same way or even worse than Kiwi Farms is run.
Well, let's. Right, I've got Tor, so I'm just opening it up, and this is such a dreadful site.
The website is laid out so poorly, I can't even find the terms of service.
Yeah, they're right at the bottom, small print.
That's right.
Right, so you go down the terms, and it starts off, fairly reasonably. Child pornography, don't post child pornography. That's fine. No one would disagree with that. Then it comes down to section 2, simulations of child pornography. Now, we have to understand that simulations of child pornography are illegal in the UK, the US, and Europe just as much as child pornography is, yeah? But then, right, the second sentence, the second sort of paragraph under that section, he says, the law has exemptions which are recognised by the service and described in a following section for board owners. Users are reminded that they are solely liable for what they post, and if the US government views their content as violations of the law, and he's cited 47 US Code 230. Now, I want to flag that up, because he's saying, there are some exemptions for simulated child porn, yeah? And he's saying that he's in the free and clear because of Section 230, yeah? And that is absolute lies. Section 230 does not affect the criminal law. It has no effect on laws about child porn. You might have an excuse if you didn't know about it, but if you know about it, the fact someone else posted it is no defense, yeah?
Okay.
Sure.
So that is a flat-out lie. So let's go down, or he's just stupid and doesn't realize it doesn't apply to, the criminal law. But then we go down to this section a little bit below, and it says lolicon shotacon.
I'm with
you.
Simulations of child pornography are illegal. However, in the interest of artistic pursuits allowed per section A to B, we will tolerate what is known as lolicon or shotacon with the following expectations. And then he says they have to be kind of siloed into Japanese-style boards. And the thing about this section is it's rubbish. Simulations of child pornography are illegal, and it stops there. There is a very limited exception for like ancient artwork and stuff. And if you look at the actual section of the US Penal Code for things of serious artistic importance, but if you've basically got a bunch of forums full of Japanese-style cartoons, which I haven't visited, but which I hear are, lots of Japanese-style children, being raped or whatever, then, or engaging in any sexual activity, really, that's just a felony. He just has a Chan site which is distributing illegal child pornography. It's as simple as that. And if you
in your own belief, Sam, do you believe that if Josh were to step on US soil or even like UK soil, that he could be arrested for this?
Well, he should be arrested. Let's not beat around the bush. He should be arrested, because even if no one has done it so far, he's said it's allowed, and therefore, if you like, he's at the very, very least, aiding, abetting, counselling, or procuring, because he's saying, you can host this here, when it's illegal. And he's actually produced a link to the section of law, which he obviously hasn't read properly, but it's worth clicking through.
So just to clarify, right, simulations of child pornography are always illegal in the United States, aside from certain exceptions for like really artistic merit or ancient drawings. And so for him to host Lolly or Shotokan on his website that's, just base pornography with no real true artistic merit to it is a crime, is what you're saying, because Section 230 of the Patriot Act only covers you from civil liability, not criminal liability.
Yeah, it's
right?
the Communications Decency Act, Section 230. But yeah,
Okay.
it only covers civil liability, no exception for criminal law, particularly not sex crimes. So, don't get me wrong, if he was innocent, if he was generally banning all child pornography and someone sneaks them on, as they might do to try and sabotage him, he'd be in the clear. But if he's allowing it, which is what his rules say he does, no, he's liable. He's criminally liable. And, if you actually click it, you just click through to the law he's referencing. It's got two limbs, and the first one says, if it's a minor engaging in sexually explicit conduct and it's a cartoon, a sculpture, or a painting, and it's obscene, it's illegal. And then there's a second thing which says, if it's, again, it's much more detailed, a minor engaging in, I'm reading the law now, quotes, graphic bestiality, sadistic or masochistic abuse, or sexual intercourse, including genital, oral genital, or oral anal, whether between persons of the same or opposite sex, and it lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. So, do you know what I mean? There's no ambiguity there. He's just hosting lots of illegal child porn.
So I would like to just ask you, Sam, why do you think he's doing this?
I have no idea. He seems to think he can get away with it, and so far, he's been proven right. I mean, he's got away with a lot. I mean, he has had multiple hosts, basically, kick him off the child porn. But the FBI haven't kicked his doors in yet.
Now, Sam, do you believe
I was going to tell you about the time he got arrested, but go on.
I was going to ask, Sam, do you have any reason to believe that Josh himself personally derives enjoyment from such photographs or such images? Or do you think okay.
What it is that he has admitted on Kiwi Farms, so it's not a fake, it's not anyone messing about, he's admitted on Kiwi Farms that he did view Neko Shota, which is basically cartoon child porn involving young boys, a few years ago. And what had happened was he had, years ago, admitted it on Blockland, and people would take the mickey. But because what was posted on Blockland was based on RC log, you could query the authenticity of that. But then he admitted it while trying to minimize it on Kiwi Farms. He admitted that those quotes from him were real. He had viewed it when he was younger, and he was trying to make out it was okay because he was the same age. Although that kind of falls a bit flat because he's now 27 and he's distributing it on an industrial scale. So,
okay.
Would you like to tell us then, Sam, how he got arrested?
Oh yeah. So a few years back, he started up an email service called lolcow.email, and they started a thread for it where they all shared the scary messages they sent to people. These intimidating messages, they're sending dick pics to finish, that kind of thing. Don't get me wrong, I don't agree with these people, but you should be, dealing with your problems with women by sending them, penis photos. You should be, that's creepy stalker stuff. And they were, of course, like the Kiwis do, all kind of enjoying it and talking about how funny it was. And then someone started using the same service to send bomb threats and murder threats and all sorts of things. And then apparently, I don't know all the details, but there was some threats sent to schools near Josh, and the police arrested him. And it was the local sheriff's department arrested him, and they had to, this was on Florida TV and everything. But he got off, and one of the reasons he got off was apparently Randy Harper went to bat on his behalf, and as a consequence of that, they locked her thread, and there isn't really a Randy Harper thread now. It's not been active for a very long time.
So this instance with Dick, the way he's locked Dick's thread and then redirected the discussion, this is just the tip of the iceberg. He has a past of modifying the site for people who does favors for him.
Yes. The two obvious examples, as I said, years ago he crossed a very interesting guy himself, a guy called Donnie Long. And Donnie got his revenge by creating a forum for stalking Josh's family. And, it was called, I think it was CandiceLynPodder.com or something. And it was named after Josh's mum. And it was just like, they found the most obscure relatives and starting accusing them of, all these things. And Josh's family, basically disowned him, and Josh, begged Donnie to stop, and basically the deal they did was, Donnie would try and, get me in trouble, and he would also shut down the site, and in return, Josh shut down the thread. There was another guy as well who was associated with Donnie, and again, that thread went away.
So because Donnie had things against you, that made...
Well, no, what it was I've been running for several years a little kind of group of people that's been trying to shut down Josh. And for a brief period, Donnie and one of Donnie's friends were on the list, although I didn't know who Donnie was. He was using a pseudonym. And they set up this site, and I said, this guy's. But they did. And then Josh's deal with them was basically they would leak all the stuff from the kind of anti-Josh mailing list. And in exchange, he deleted both their threads.
Wow.
Okay. I mean, they're not available. They're either hidden or deleted, and have been for some years now.
So it's very clear that if you're willing to do favors for him or dirty work for him, he's willing to do things for you. Now, let's say that Dick Masterson was to delist Josh from New Project 2. Do you think that Dax would have anything to fear from Josh in retaliation? Or
once that relationship was over, he basically would be at the mercy of Josh, and that depends how Josh feels. I mean, Josh might feel, well, Dick's my buddy, but he's had to kick me out, or Josh might be vindictive, but you never know. Yeah. Never know. Josh isn't the most stable of people. Who knows how he might respond?
Yeah.
Can I just ask you this question then, Sam? Just to bring it back to what you call the Dregosphere, your pet name for the embarrassing fringe of the right, that associate with Josh and Ethan Ralph there. And I just wanted to ask what your impression of somebody like Ethan Ralph was.
Ethan, I don't want to be too harsh. He has been associated with Josh for some years. I mean, Josh wrote an article about me, trying to blame me for various things, a few years ago, I think 2016, and he hosted that on the Ralph Retort. So he's clearly been associated with Josh for some time. However, I don't have the same kind of problem because he's not hosting the illegal content. He's not, backing terrorism. He's not usually sort of harassing the very vulnerable, whereas Josh kind of picks first on the very weakest. It's not celebs that Josh goes after. Josh goes after, some random he's found a wrong planet. Do you know what I mean?
So you just find Ralph very distasteful. And he's not somebody you would associate with probably, but he doesn't rise to the same level of criminal behavior as you're saying Josh does, right?
Yeah, he's just like a bit, I don't know what you mean, crass or gauche, but he's not illegal. Dick Masterson isn't illegal, except, funding Josh. I mean, we've got several problems with Josh. We've covered the child porn. Obviously, there's a terrorism. I mean, that members of Kiwi Farms have been involved in several shootings, not just Brent and Tarrant. And one of them had actually spoken to Josh about school shootings about 3 days before he did one. There was a guy called William Atchison who went up and shot up a school in Aztec, New Mexico. And he had an account on Kiwi Farms under the kind of name Fuck You. That was his account name. And he had actually been chatting to Josh about school shootings like 3 days before he walked into his old school and opened fire. And so Josh has been linked to, several events involving school shootings. And, he used to try and blame me, but he eventually gave in and he just admits he's distributing, and there's a mosque shooting with Brent and Tarrant. It's the same thing.
Well, in your own belief, Sam, why do you think that Josh is in Serbia at the moment?
Is he in Serbia? I mean, you see these rumors. I know that he used to live with his mum, and that was at Don Janelle Road in Florida. But she's moved because the police actually visited there to see if they could find Josh, and they found that the house was up for sale and it was empty. And Josh has long, parted company with his mother, and so Josh is somewhere that's not his mother's house. But I'm very distrustful of this kind of, bit line of information that comes out of the Kiwis because they're quite possibly lying. I mean, I suspected he might be in New York because I think they're doing free college or something there. So he might still be in some part of the United States, but he may also be in Serbia. I don't know.
So, I mean, Josh isn't to be arrested on site by the authorities then?
Well, it shocks me actually how much he's got away with, because I think once you start openly allowing distribution of illegal child porn, and multiple hosts are kicking you off and saying, look, hang on, you can't do this. We found illegal stuff. Now, even the rules of his site say you're allowed to have this illegal stuff. I can't see how he's getting away with it. Actually, one of the things we're doing at the moment is we're going to have a massive go at the FBI about this because, yes, America has strong free speech rules, but I don't really think they extend to this. And I think the FBI's, let it down there. And of course, one thing I want to mention, Josh has started or someone on 9chan with Josh's, as it were, permission, has started a forum for stalking female legislators.
No, I was not.
No,
Right.
no. Whoa.
So 9chan, there's a couple of particularly problematic, if you like, illegal sites coming up. There's Colfax, and what they do there is they keep a database of women who've had sex with non-Caucasians. So they just stalk any random women they can find who's moderately attractive and has had sex with a non-Caucasian man. And they do the same kind of Kiwi thread, only with more pictures, because it's an image board. And then they've got this other board called Left Nudes, where they're basically if you look at Left Nudes, it's basically they make threads on female legislators like senators or House of Representatives in the United States or members of Parliament in Britain. And then they have, fake nudes and stories about murdering them and raping their children. And so obviously that's made a lot of very powerful people upset with Josh. And then, he's also got New Zealand, where they kind of taunt Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, and, and have their discussions about how great, they think Brenton Tarrant is. And then they've got, they've got a thread for her on Left News with a story about murdering her 18-month-old daughter with a cheese grater. Obviously, this stuff isn't nice because that revenge porn is illegal in about 46 of 52 US states now, I think.
Yes.
So, if you look at Left Nude, so it's not illegal to have adult pictures, it's illegal to distribute them. But if you look at Left Nudes, it's full of, senators and stuff. And, obviously, they're not very happy. And I know here in the UK, I have in writing from the parliamentary police that they are now investigating Kiwi Farms and 9chan.
Is it something to do with Jess Phillips, right?
Well, not just her. They've put a few British MPs or their families on this site. Jess Phillips is one of them. The reason Jess Phillips is significant is because the week they set it all up, she reported to police she'd seen this site because someone had emailed it to her or something. I'm not quite sure how she found out, but she had a break-in attempt to the garage of our home, and then someone on Left News posted that they were taking responsibility.
Right.
I mean, what I want to ask Sam is, it's hard to imagine that Dick Masterson would be fully ignorant of all of this and still do business with him. I mean, what would you speculate? Why would somebody like Dax Herrera associate and risk his business for this guy?
I mean, I don't think either he's dumb as a sack of hammers, or he hasn't looked at what Josh is actually hosting and what Josh has done over the years. Because he strikes me as a busy guy. He's got a big income that he can spend on, cars, female attention, whatever he happens to want. And maybe detailed research on Josh's background hasn't been a key thing for him. And I think, he's going to have that shoved in his face because, he thinks it's just a few nasty threads on Kiwi Farms, and it goes so far beyond that.
Wow. I mean, you also said that Josh was the first and only person, I believe, ever banned from Patreon. Could you just elaborate on that?
Yes.
I don't know of anyone that's banned from Patreon.
Yeah, so Patreon was a payment site that was set up by a guy called Cody Wilson. Have you heard of Cody Wilson?
He paid for sex for the minor, right?
Well, he was the CEO of a firm called Ghost Gunner. And what Ghost Gunner is, 3D printers. What he did was he designed some guns that would work effectively when printed out on a 3D printer. So what Ghost Gunner would do is basically you download a file from them and they would print out a gun on your 3D printer. And of course, that was very controversial. But then he decided to set up a thing called Hatreon, which was intended to be a payment platform for creators who are like Nazis and real extremists. And in fairness, I actually thought that wasn't something that should be shut down. I don't approve of those people, but I don't see if they're not illegal that they should have their payment shut down. But then Josh was banned because of Josh's revolting paedophilia, basically. I mean, I had a kind of back and forth with Cody Wilson, and what seems to have decided him, I sent him a link to another Chan site Josh used to run called 16chan, which is now closed down. And that had a board called File, where they would allow any paedophile material that wasn't illegal, so basically stories. And they had some particularly graphic child rape stories on there. And just to avoid confusion, 16chan, the name, was for whatever reason, released by Josh, and someone else has it now. So the current 16chan, nothing to do with Josh, don't hassle them. But 16chan a few years ago was run by Josh. It was an earlier attempt at kind of his Infinity Next that he's got on 9chan. And he had a board there called File. I've got some archive links to it. Again, it's stories about raping children to death. And the particular story that horrified Cody Wilson was a story in which some guy called Big J abducts a 5-year-old. I think it's somewhere in South America or somewhere like that. And Big J, gets out his knives, straps the toddler down, cuts a hole in them, and has sex with the wound, and until the child dies. And that was the kind of material that Josh would host on 16chan. And of course, that's technically not illegal, but it horrified Cody Wilson. The effect, even Nazis were like, "Guys, this is too degenerate. We're not having you." And Josh was banned from Hatred, the only person ever banned from Hatred.
So, what do you think to Josh's defense whenever he's confronted with this by saying he's an advocate for free speech?
Well, I'm an advocate for free speech. I'm a conservative. I don't think Milo should have been banned. I think that Lauren Southern should have not been banned from the UK. I don't necessarily agree with everything that Lauren Southern says. Milo's a nice guy. I don't agree with everything he says, but I think they should be allowed on Twitter, allowed on payment services, allowed into this country. And I'm for free legal speech. I'm not in favour of industrial distribution of child porn. I'm not in favour of shooting up public buildings. And I'm against stalking members of Parliament and senators and congresswomen with revenge porn. I don't think that those things are free speech. I think they're crimes in Britain and Europe. And I think, it's not unreasonable for revenge porn to be a crime. I don't think it's unreasonable for child porn to be a crime. And I don't think it's unreasonable for shooting people to be a crime.
So what's the end point with your, I hesitate to call it a relationship with Josh. What's the end point? Do you want to see him face justice?
Well, I would like him to be arrested for distributing child pornography and for, his involvement in terrorism. I think it's a shame that he hasn't been arrested for stalking. He stalked some very vulnerable people. There have been some suicides, of course, as you know, of some very vulnerable young women who are barely, adult themselves. There was Julie Terryberry, was very, very sad. She published some unwise things online, and Josh and his friends, not only did they stalk her until she killed herself, but after she killed herself, they continued to post her nudes, got a dump of her Facebook friends, and made sure her family knew about her threat.
Right.
So, they're not nice people. I mean, this isn't, it's not like...
When I spoke to Josh last week, and I mentioned to him that people on Kiwi farms tend to kill themselves, do you want to know what the reaction of Josh was?
It wouldn't surprise me. Go on. It
was laughter, just maniacal laughter.
Yeah, that's exactly like Josh. I mean, he comes across to me as reminds me of. I don't know if you're aware, but I did my law master's on mental health. I've done a lot of work for vulnerable people. He comes across to me as a psychopath. I mean, I don't mean that casually. I mean, clinically, he seems to lack empathy. He's impulsive. He doesn't realize when he's stepped so far over the line there's going to be consequences. And
so are you almost sympathetic to Josh then in that way, knowing that you've got this medical background? Insane. Right.
I think he's seriously dangerously insane. There's been a number of deaths associated with him, and he is currently, intent on causing as much disruption as possible. Of course, there was the attack on the World Health Organization. Did I mention that?
No.
The reason he got banned from Twitter recently, he had this account, and we kind of periodically, me and my colleagues, get him banned from Twitter. Usually we wait till he gets a following, so it hurts more. But the particular thing that got him banned was he had posted, and people on 9chan were sharing hacked details from the World Health Organization. I don't think it's a very high quality hack, but they were distributing it on 9chan for the purpose of kind of disrupting World Health Organization's activities, because they think that, coronavirus is good because it kills non-Caucasians. They want to kill, members of ethnic minorities. And Josh was gloating about this. I've got an archive of the tweet. And, of course, so when we got in touch with Twitter, Twitter are arseholes, but they banned him for that. You can get away with an awful lot on Twitter, but terrorist attacks on the World Health Organization whilst there's a pandemic on, they banned him for that.
Holy fuck.
I'll dig out the archive.
It just goes on and on and on.
Yeah, I can send you links to prove all this. I'm not, I've got anything that I can legally send you, I will.
In your own assessment, being, a mental health professional from the sounds of it, certainly having considerable experience.
I did my dissertation on mental health. I've done some charity work. I wouldn't call myself a mental health professional. You've
got considerable experience, I would say. More so than I have, definitely. So in your experience, would you say that he is maybe prone to an early premature death? Do you reckon he's either going to suicide or?
Well, he's obviously, as you're aware, talked about going on a shooting spree. He said he wanted to kill everyone with a vagina at one stage. That's a real quote. That was from Blockland. Encyclopedia Dramatica picked up, but it is real, and I have seen the source, so it's not made up. And so, yes, he is quite dangerous.
Just to clarify, he said he wanted to kill every single person with a vagina.
Well, no, he said he wanted to kill all fucking cunts with a vagina, but I was toning it down.
Indelicate, so to speak.
So, Sam, my question to you would be, why do you think that he has such a presence within these quote-unquote e-celebrities that associate with him? He seems to have connections with a lot. Do you reckon they're fearful of the forum? Do you reckon they're fearful of him? Or they're using him as protection?
Start that question again, sorry.
Yeah, so why do you think that Josh is so ingratiated with these e-celebrities? Why do you think that he's often on these streams like the Kill stream? He's often on Dick Masterson's show. He gets about. Do you think that they use him as protection? Do you reckon they're fearful of him on the forum? Or is there something else?
Fear. I mean, it's quite obvious that Ethan would like. I think you did an analysis of a discussion between them, didn't you? And it's quite obvious Ethan would like his thread deleted, which is quite understandable because Ethan doesn't deserve to be stalked. However much I think he's crass, he doesn't deserve it any more than anyone else does. And Dick is obviously quite upset about his thread as well. And other people have been upset with Josh. I just put in the chat.
Oh, hold on. I think we lost Adam.
No,
we lost Sam.
We lost Sam.
Yeah. You heard the siren in the background, right?
Oh, he's back. We had feared you were swatted. We heard a siren in the background.
No, it's just a car going by. An ambulance, I think. I just put in a link to that World Health Organization thing for the archive of it, so you can see.
Perfect. Yes, thank you.
But yeah, they're obviously fearful of him.
Because I know for a fact that Josh has been on Dick's program 11 times, which is, more.
One of them got his mum fired, or contributed to it. It was one of the earlier ones. He gave. He was being interviewed, and he talked about the time someone went to his door to remonstrate with his mum and say, Kiwi Farms is horrible. Can you shut it down? That was back when Josh lived with his mum, and Josh. And the person who came to the door was a transgender person who was quite a tall, I think maybe had been in the military before transitioning. So he had this, trans woman come to the door. And Josh, in his interview with Masterson, quoted his mum as, making some really horrible comment like, that's the ugliest lesbian I ever saw. And then people who complained to his mum's employer, and that was about the time she lost her job.
So that is how Josh's mom lost his job.
Well, what I hear happened was when they were living together, people started harassing her employer. I mean, I named them, but I didn't do anything illegal. I put them in articles and stuff. But some people went beyond that and apparently, started harassing this estate agent where she worked. I think you call it real estate. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Keller Williams. And Josh complained. He alleged all sorts of nasty emails had been sent and things and phone calls, and the FBI are investigating. I don't know how much of that is true, but certainly I know, because I was copied in, some people sent emails saying she was supporting his forum. And the Dick Masterson interview was one thing that they, pardon me, hiccups lied on. That he had quoted her as making these quite virulently, homophobic and transphobic remarks. And, whatever you think of that, the estate agent probably wasn't best pleased.
This is a question I've had just because I've heard it, and I'm not sure if it's true. Did Josh's mother have an account on Kiwi Farms?
So there was an account in her name, and it was there for a long time and not deleted. And it was used as evidence against her with her employers. However, Josh denies it and says she was framed and said that someone, created it and he didn't notice. So, we may never know. It wasn't active. So she may have been fitted up. I kind of lean to, actually the view that maybe she was like arm twisted into having one created and then never posted, and that's why Josh didn't delete it. But then, we'll never know the truth. But I suspect it was real, but I can't prove it.
Sam, I just want to bring things back to New Project 2 for a second. Now, I've heard the figure that per every transaction that is fraudulent, say, that doesn't comply with the rules by the financial authorities, that Dick Masterson is liable for 10 grand.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
Visa and MasterCard do have rules which allow acquiring banks to be fined, and there are, I think, reciprocal rules for the bank to fine Dick Masterson. Whether they do and to what extent they deem transactions illegal is for them. I mean, they might just kick him. That's what the previous one did. Certainly, Visa can fine the bank 10 grand a pop for illegal transactions once they've been notified. Something like that. It's in the rules. I looked them up before because I was a couple of years ago, the first time I got him banned when it was lolcow.us. I can't remember the exact figure, but it is something like that. But they may well not. They tend to just kick people off. Do you know what I mean?
Right. So Masterson hasn't been fined, in your own opinion?
Well, he wasn't fined last time. He certainly didn't mention it. He just said they shit-canned him without any reason. That was.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, it strikes me that you can't keep doing this, right? You can't keep finding a bank and then having them kick you off, because that would be fraudulent, wouldn't it?
Well, no, I mean, it's just that he won't be able to because he'll get on more and more financial blackness. And as I said, if he carries on, there is a real risk his checking account will be closed one day. His payment cards will go, and he'll find it very difficult to operate. Any sort of employment, which is why most people try to avoid being linked to crimes. And it goes back to this thing: Kiwi Farms does illegal things, yeah. Dick doesn't usually, except obviously New Project 2's compliance issues. Ethan doesn't usually, except that one time he got arrested for assaulting a police officer. But everything about Kiwi Farms is illegal, and every time it sneaks back into the funds, it gets kicked off.
During his lawsuit with Maddox, Dick Masterson used screenshots from Kiwi Farms in that case.
And that's not illegal.
That's not illegal. So, I mean, all content from Kiwi Farms isn't necessarily falling under the umbrella of illegality.
Well, let me put it another way. Owning, downloading it, looking at it in your browser, putting it into an exhibit, that's not illegal. But the operation of the site where, there's stalking going on, where there's terrorism, where, particularly 9chan with child pornography, it's illegal to operate 9chan. It's not necessarily illegal to screenshot a 9chan post and put it in a court document.
What about to post and engage actively in the activities of the site,
Well, look, most jurisdictions, what Kiwi Farms does is stalking. I mean, if it was in the UK, they just arrest Josh tomorrow, even before the thing with stalking the members of parliament. But they did at one stage arrest him in Florida, and Randy Harper somehow persuaded the sheriff it was free speech, and then of course now Josh is at an unknown location. But if you take part, I mean, there are people who will get arrested because particularly the European people, if they get caught. It's a stalking site with links to terrorism. You're going on a watch list. If you donated to Mad at the Internet, that list has probably already been reported to the authorities by the bank. If you put your credit card into Mad at the Internet, the FBI probably have it, and they're probably parceling out the numbers to the European and UK people.
Wow.
So Sam, this might be a very personal question, but how has Josh hosting a thread on you on Kiwi Farms affected your life?
Well, it hasn't had too much effect, except for when they've actually attempted to frame me for bomb threats, and when they've been sending out emails in my name trying to persuade people I'm going to blow things up. But I've actually benefited from it in a small way now, because Josh has made so many insane attempts to get me in trouble. Eventually the local police had to make a marker, which means on my address, which says various things, and as well, I can never be investigated for anything almost now. And also you have the IRS.
Yes.
Well, Josh tried to get me into trouble with the British IRS, which is called Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. So eventually they put a note on my file saying there's, these loony terrorist stalkers who are trying to get him. And you can't investigate him without permission from Special Office. And, they've basically said if they get one they think is Kiwi Farms, they'll refer it to the police.
Well, I mean, what was the issue with HMRC then?
Well, they got this weird idea I hadn't filed, because I own a company, that I hadn't filed some document that I needed to. And I think the basic issue was that I'm exempt because it's not, that big a company. And so they kept putting these rubbish reports that I was under filing taxes. And of course, what I say online is true. I mean, I think one year I put my income down as 72 grand.
Sure.
Oh, I think we lost him again. We
You need to tell him, type in the chat.
yeah, it's like we.
Yeah, just type.
Yeah, it's like... But this is good stuff so far. I could definitely chop it up. Like we can make this work right now.
Are you going to get this out tonight then, or?
Yeah, it'll be at a bad time. Yeah, I'll get it up at like 1 a.m. my time, so 6 a.m. tomorrow for you.
No. Get it up at night. Get it up at like 9:30.
Tonight?
Prime time.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I'll do it. I can do it.
Yeah, do it for the time slot 9:30.
Oh, yeah. Just
And then on Full Blast Forever's channel as well.
Yeah, we'll put it there.
Oh, is that where? So yeah, I'll try to get it up so you guys can approve it before it's there, and then we'll what is it? Premiere it on
Full Blast. Yeah.
Okay. No, that'd be good. That would be great. So actually, you know what's funny? You have the full login credentials for Full Blast Forever, or just the stream key?
Just the stream key.
Okay, so if you just have the stream key, you know what you could do is when I finish editing this video. Oh, Sam.
Hello? I got cut off mid rant answering your question.
Yes.
Well, you were just saying, oh gosh, what was it? You were talking about your company. Last thing you said was you earned 72 grand a year.
Well, I did a few years ago. I earn more than that now, except for the COVID lockdown, when obviously everything's frozen. We're all on holiday. But a few years ago, that's how much I earned, and I posted it, I think, on a wiki or somewhere. Yeah. And he answered some question. And Josh would not believe it. So he and his friends all reported me to the Her Majesty's Inland Revenue. And so I explained to Her Majesty's, because obviously I had reported the correct amount, Her Majesty's Inland Revenue, that this was just, this Kiwi Farms thing, and, it was illegal, all that. And they looked at it and they put a special note on my file to the effect that, these terrorists were trying to badmouth me. And so now any consideration investigation has to be considered against this. And anyone they think is from Kiwi Farms will just be referred to the police.
Right.
So,
I mean, you've not really been hurt personally by this then?
Well, it's been very upsetting at times, particularly at first. But, in the end, I'm still here. I'm still fine. And Josh has had to flee to an unknown location and is nearly destitute.
Well, that's a fair point. In your estimation, could Josh ever step foot, say, in England? Could he...
It's a complex issue. I think, particularly at the moment, now he's started stalking members of, the government. Probably not the best plan. I mean, you probably have to nag some dumb, local police officer. But when you pointed out what he's done and you got through to them, they
Sam, you were roboting.
Terrorism command.
You were roboting for the last 10, 15 seconds ago. Could you repeat what you said? Oh no.
We've lost him.
Oh man. Yeah, I see. On the death list for Josh. So what I was gonna say, guys, once he comes back, I could finish editing this. I'll let you guys all get the approval, and then what I can do. Oh, okay, Sam, you're back. You were talking about him stepping in. Now he's out. On the death list. Oh, by the way, guys, I just want you to know this is going to be an absolute nightmare to edit. PPP, you're
Well, I can edit it. If you want me to edit it, I don't mind.
Oh, Adam.
Send me the audio recording.
You would really do it? Oh, you'd be a hero.
It would take me seconds.
Seconds? Really, dude?
Well, it would take me about an hour's time.
Yeah, because it's like some of the levels are out of whack. What is it? PPP, you're kind of quiet. And
okay.
Godwinson, you and Sam are great, at the right levels. I'm quieter.
That's most of the audio anyways.
Yeah, whatever. So the thing is, once we make the video, what we could do is, if you guys don't have the credentials, you just have the stream key, I could stream the video, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
All right. We got you back.
Excellent. Sam. Yeah?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Brilliant.
Perfect.
So I don't know where we got to. I was telling you that the parliamentary police were looking into 9 Shilling Kiwi Farms, and they work with Counter-Terrorism Command and SO15.
Yeah. So
I've got that. I can forward you confirmation back to prove. Again, happy to forward you evidence of all these things I say. And obviously 9chan and Kiwi Farms, it's gone from being shitposting to stalking to terrorism. I mean, they terrorism in multiple countries.
So, I mean, Sam, at what point do Interpol get involved? At what point does an international arrest warrant get issued?
I don't know. I don't know what it takes, and they're not going to tell us if they do, are they? They're going to. We're going to read about it. One day Kiwi Farms will either disappear or there'll be that FBI sees thing, particularly on 9chan, I think.
Well, Josh has often alluded to plans he's got for Kiwi Farms after he's like dead or kidnapped or arrested, and all of these plans involve Kiwi Farms continuing.
Well, Kiwi Farms hasn't done Josh much good, has it? And there was a site I like to compare Josh to a few years ago called Is Anyone Up, which is a revenge porn site. Back when it was less illegal and people would post, nudes of their exes or whatever on there. And they used to talk tough until they went to prison, and part of the plea deal was they shut it down. And I suspect that if Josh gets arrested, which is becoming more and more likely for a number of reasons, that, the police are going to say, it will affect your sentence if this site continues.
Right. But if Josh just shut down the site today and stopped 9chan today, is he away scot-free? Is he clean? Or does he have to face justice?
We won't know what's going on. We do know that he has, as royally, stuck his middle finger up at New Zealand. You know about that.
Sure.
We do know he's been stalking a bunch of legislators, and we do know that he's banned from a load of financial services. So the thing is, the FBI won't tell you when they're investigating, but they have had pissed off phone calls from New Zealanders. They've had pissed off phone calls from presumably the UK police, and who knows what they're doing. They could be, there could be a party van with blacked out windows outside Josh's house as we speak. We won't know. It's like when they seized that drugs market, Hansel Market, that had the little boat, and then the police seized it, and they actually had commissioned a picture of the boat sinking, which I thought was very funny. And all the people who went there to buy their drugs found this picture of a boat sinking, saying, we've run your website for the last month. And for all you know, Josh could one day find himself in custody, and the police could just keep Kiwi Farms running and collect all the use details like they did with the drug markets, and particularly with the child porn stuff, as I said, 9chan, and also, obviously, what was the other thing? If you're typing in credit card numbers and they're going to the financial system, there is a list somewhere in the financial system of people who've donated to Man at the Internet.
Would you be surprised if Josh were a federal informant and passing on user data to the federal authorities?
It would surprise me if they were letting him get away with this much. I mean, it really would, because, it is one thing to run a shitposting site. I mean, let me put it another way. Let's compare 8chan and 9chan, yeah? 8chan allows a lot, but it won't allow anything illegal, yeah? It will not, yeah? And the guy who owns 8chan, Jim Watkins, is a kind of nice guy. He's an old, ex-military, really believes in free speech, and kind of tolerates people he disagrees with. But ultimately, he would cooperate with the feds, and that's after the shootings and Brenton Tarrant and all that, he went along to the to the Homeland Security people, and even the Democrats on the House, Homeland Security Committee, were happy with him and thanked him for his help. Even the Democrats. So you can see him cooperating. Josh, I'm not so sure. And even if he was an informant, I can't see the feds tolerating him stalking senators and House representatives. I just can't see that happening. Not unless they want to be ex-agents.
So Watkins doesn't tolerate any lolly or shot a con on his
I don't
website.
think anymore. I mean, I think what happened was, when it was started up by Frederick Brennan, of course the laws changed over the years. Frederick Brennan, had quite open house, but then they got kicked off for it, off various financial things. And Jim Watkins took over and kind of cleaned it up. He would say, if it's illegal in the United States, it's not allowed on my board. I think Watkins can be credited for cleaning up 8chan and 8chan and cooperating with the authorities, to be honest. And one of the reasons they parted company with Josh is, of course, he failed to upgrade their site. I mean, Infinity Next wasn't very good, and as you say, it's not very good now. And there are rumours he was involved in allowing or something to do with the child pornography that had been a problem in 8chan. And, of course, when Josh went, so did a lot of their porn problem.
Now, there are rumours, Sam, that you set up a bounty on Josh's head or something, $5,000.
No, there's no rumour. A few years ago, I sued a associated with Josh called Dynastia on a John Doe basis. And I got permission from a High Court judge here in Britain to serve by email. So I served him the court papers by email and he didn't reply. And a few months later, the court granted judgment, if you like, in default at a court hearing. Okay. And summary disposition. And so there's order against this anonymous person called Kiwi Dynastia. Now, if he is unmasked ever, I can then enforce the judgment against him and get my 10 grand. So what I've said is if any Kiwi out there has Dynastia's real identity and can prove he's the Dynastia who posted the things I sued him for, then I will share half of whatever I recover after expenses with them. So I think the debt now is 13 grand. Of course, interest is payable. So probably more than that now. It's like 15. So let's say I spend 5 grand suing Dynastia in Australia and I get his house is sold and I get 15 grand back, then I'll give half up to 5 grand to whoever shops him. 5 grand in UK money, I don't know what's that, 6 grand in dollars, something like that. But that's not a fake bounty. It's not illegal. I've put it on my website. That's still open. Even if it goes over the 6-year time limit, time can be extended when this guy's hiding. So, if I can recover money, I've said I will split half of it up to 5 grand of the profit with whoever shops Kiwi Dynastia. That's a real offer.
Yeah, because I had seen a post, I think, last week from them saying that, you had only made $12,000 last year, and of that, 10,000 was this unenforceable, judgment as an
They believe their own lies.
Yeah.
I earned 72 a few years ago whenever I posted that. I've earned significantly more than that in recent years, and I've declared it all. And if they believe that I'm only earning 12 grand, that's because they don't understand the accounts they're reading. I mean, there's one guy called Ginger Piglet who keeps telling them he's an attorney. And basically, he doesn't seem to be because he keeps getting his law wrong. Like he keeps thinking I have to file things that I don't. And the police really want to talk to him because he and a guy called the Drivel Broadcast, they had one of them, the Drivel Broadcast, had photographed my home and posted it on Kiwi Farms, and the other one, this Ginger Piglet, had tried to contact my local council because years ago I was an elected councillor. I was a city councillor, and they contacted it to try and get minutes. And so they are suspected because there were some threats made to schools about the same time that they were doing that. And also they're suspects for this this attempted break-in at Jess Phillips' home. So, there's some police would really like to talk to those guys, but as for their estimates of my income, they have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So talking with people who are sort of invested in the law that Josh is associated to, what are your opinions on Nick Recator?
I don't know much about him, so I can't say much. Would you like to tell me a bit about him?
Well, he's a lawyer that Josh seems to be entwined with.
Well, I don't know how much, because I'd be very surprised if any lawyer fully informed of Josh's activities wanted to be.
Yeah. This man, Nick Recator, is a member of New Project 2. He receives something like $1,000 a month through it. But the connection to Josh that I know personally, there was going to be a fight between me and Ethan Ralph, and Josh had contacted Recator as the third-party lawyer to be an escrow. So that's pretty much the extent, I think, of their relationship.
And also Josh is frequently on Recator's show.
It's true. Yeah, he's been on the program probably a half dozen times at least.
Well, I suspect Recator probably doesn't know all the stuff that Josh is doing because if he did, Josh wouldn't be talking this much rubbish. I mean, I'm pretty sure that he doesn't have anything to do with the 9chan rules because any real lawyer would have known, of course, that Section 230 has no effect on criminal law. So all this rubbish about immunity, yes, you might be immune from a defamation lawsuit or a civil suit, but there is no immunity under 230 for child porn.
Yes. Remember, though, that this is a lawyer who's never made one legal prediction correct and has never actually won any of the cases he represents as an internet lawyer. So
I know nothing about the guy. I don't want to badmouth this poor guy. Yeah, he's may have had Josh on his show, but he may well not know about it because if I was, even if this guy was shady, which we have no evidence he is, out of self-preservation, he'd distance himself if he had a full picture, I think.
All right, Sam. Thank you for providing, great answers to these questions that we've been asking. And I feel as though it's not only been revelatory, but it's been a very constructive exploration of not just New Project 2, but the cast of characters associated with it. So thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing the interview once you've put it all back together.
Well, it'll likely be up like in a few hours.
Oh, great. Well, I'll probably see it in the morning then. It's 11 here.
Sure.
I might be up. Depends how quick you work. Couple of things. Quite happy to send you some links to documents like for background, like just proof of what I said, that he was hosting these horrible child rape
You could
stories.
send it to the email that the correspondence I have.
What I suggest is we put those links in the description so that the audience are able to follow what Sam is saying throughout.
Sure.
Because
absolutely.
Without that, it's difficult to follow because what he's saying, there's so much detail to it, So.
Yeah, not a problem. So I'll send you a short selection because, the kind of things, if I was making a video, I kind of float these things up or you can put them in the links, whatever. And the only other thing is Leo.
Yes.
You may not be interested in this. I've been working on some Twitter stories, and I know you're not the biggest fan of Twitter because they banned you. I remember
yes,
that. Yeah. And I do have a story I've been trying to get some traction on. So I'll send you details of that and see if you're interested.
Yes, no, please do.
I mean, just so what it is Twitter, as you know, have been censoring Donald Trump. And I've actually been helping charitably. I've been helping a child abuse victim, a proven child abuse victim, who was raped by a Catholic priest when they were 5. And there's no doubt about that because the Catholic priest went to jail.
Right.
And this person was stalking this child abuse victim. And we got a court judgment here in the UK against this stalker who also lives in the UK, a lady called Esther Baker. And...
Oh, he cut out.
We've lost him.
Yeah. I'm still recording this other part. Should I stop recording right now, guys?
Yeah, cut it here.
Cut it. Stop.
Cut it.